All right, so good afternoon, everybody. I am choosing to start in a
Good
different
afternoon.
Good
way.
afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I'm going to start in a different way.
Yes, and good afternoon, everyone.
That was my internet, everybody. Sorry about that. We'll persist despite the challenges if they should come, but I'm going to choose to start in a different way. So there's a conversation I wanted to share, and then I will need persons to start off by telling me what is your take on the conversation. So let me start with that, and then I'll introduce myself and officially welcome you. Let me see if I can find it for you. All right. Please let me know if you are hearing it when it starts.
That month here is Men's Mental Health Month, right?
Yeah.
How you take care of your mental health?
They were my friend them, my real friend them every day and reason and chat, play game, play football. Yeah, me have a real friend them.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think say people understand this. Even we have go through things, we laugh about things that we serious. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We keep the friend group positive. So don't look negative. We laugh about everything. We laugh about one another every day. We jeer each other every day.
Not hearing anymore. It has the video has been.
Paused. Are you hearing me?
I'm hearing you, but I'm not hearing the video
Yeah, but
anymore.
fix myself when you know, it's like we keep ourselves. So it's like even when you go through things, the man make you feel like say, yo, I'm afraid to tell you that my business, you know. I'm afraid
You
to
don't
say.
actually talk about it in the field.
Yeah, like therapy session.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, yo, you know, say this not go on good or this not happen right,
Yeah.
and we have every man have them opinion and nobody now make it seem like say, yo, you know, for tell me, you know what I mean? So it's like have good friends, bro.
So I think is one misconception that people always have about men and mental health.
Say we not go through things.
Mm.
Man do go through things, bro.
But
Man, bro, man,
This internet is stressing me out today.
because I know that's not a female, make man really deal them big. Because you can't tell a woman your problem. She will left you. Because she gonna say you're weak. She gonna say you're bad for everything. She gonna say all of your stress.
yeah.
You know what I mean? You see, all of where I got through. You see me? So a man rather behind closed doors, a man will shed some tears, man.
Yeah.
A man will go through things and shed tears and then fix himself and put on a smile
Yeah,
and
really.
feel well and gone again.
So
You know?
what advice should I give to somebody who will go through something right now?
Sometimes it's good for ball. Sometimes it's good for shed some tears.
All right. Was everybody able to hear that, although it was stopping and going?
Release the way I go through if you can, but if you talk to. And pray about it, man. Prayer there. Keep anything away. You know what I mean? That's it.
Yeah.
Everything, man.
All right, everybody. Technology seems to be giving us a challenge today. Were you able to hear the conversation?
Yeah, most of it.
Yes,
It
in
was also
part.
distorted, but we heard the message of it.
All right. So, if I may have two brave enough people to tell me what's their take on this conversation, because we're going to talk about men and being able to take care of their mental health. And I thought it was important to start with hearing from a male. I mean, his name is Dino Crazy, but that doesn't mean he didn't have something important to say. So I'll take who wants to tell me what's your take on what he had to say.
Good evening again. So I believe that he was owning up to the fact that men do have mental health challenges. They go through their own emotional roller coasters, and that, he believes that there are barriers to them. That's what I'm getting from it. And there are barriers to them saying, how exactly they are feeling because they might be stigmatized, as he said something that about, I think I heard, say, the woman might just say, hold up your stress, or, and so they find an outlet. And one such is to probably go behind closed doors and shed a tear or two. That's what I was getting from the conversation.
All right, thank you. Gentlemen, anybody?
Yeah, you can hear me, guys?
Yes, I can. Go right ahead.
Yeah, pretty much. I think he was saying that he has a support system in his friends. I do have a particular support system like that myself with my friends. Where we don't really get as personal as what he said, but we do talk about some things that you know we need others' opinion on, and just so we can get an opinion on how we can attack a challenge or how we can go about something that we are going through. But I think he also shed some light on opening up to your partner as men in society today. I don't think society, or I think it's a cultural thing where the space isn't created in a relationship or in a partnership for us men to express ourselves. I mean, it comes down to your person still, but I don't think men today feel as comfortable as we should be or should feel to express ourselves. So it doesn't. I think into female overall or to your partner, in terms of what you're going through, maybe to a full extent or depends on the person. Maybe not at all. Because it might come out soft or weak, or maybe it just take up fear problem too. So there's no space for you even share your problem. So that is my take on what he said.
All right, thank you. So the conversation we are going to be having today is men. It's time to mentally man up. I want to thank you all for joining me for Mental Health Mondays for June. June is Men's Health Month overall. And because mental health is my love, joy, and passion, of course, I'm going to talk about men and their mental health. My name is Cheryl Garrix Lloyd, and I'm sure, a mental health advocate and a mental health professional. I am a psychiatric nurse as my specialization. I lecture in the School of Nursing, and if I were probably in surgery and you asked me something about mental health, I'd probably answer you. So if you joined me since I started Mental Health Mondays live in March, thank you for being here again this evening. If it's your first time, thank you so much for joining me, and try to make sure you're back for the fourth Monday in July. And if you haven't seen the newsletter, because Mental Health Mondays is twofold. There's a newsletter every first Monday on LinkedIn. It's called Mental Health Mondays. Then have a read. So I wanted to just officially welcome you, say thank you, and we're going to have a lovely conversation about men. It's time to mentally man up, because the conversation we have with our gentlemen is really similar to what you shared and what the video says, where we're being encouraged to man up, and it's not usually used in a way that's encouraging for our gentlemen. And I want to just have my little 2 cents in trying to help us to move beyond that. So I don't want us to man up, gentlemen. I want us to mentally man up. And then I want those of support to ensure that we're going to help our gentlemen to move forward and figure it out, because it's important. We have to be a part of the conversation. Each one teach one, and we share what we know. And so this conversation this evening, gentlemen and ladies, is going to be about helping our men to mentally man up. Are you seeing my PowerPoint?
Yes.
All right. So let's start with this conversation. Your life matters, gentlemen, and you matter. 560,000 men per year, 47,000 men each month, 1,200 men per day, and one man every 72 seconds. Does anybody know what these statistics are for?
Suicide rates?
Suicide rates of our men. 560,000 men every year, one man every 72 seconds. So the question I have for you as we start off this afternoon, do you know the difference between mental health and mental illness? Because usually We start off with that, and I'll explain to you in just a few seconds. What are the statistics for mental health of our men versus our women? Do we know what percentage of men seek help when they have mental health challenges? And the very final question for every single one of us in here this afternoon is, do you know your mental health status? So you don't know, or you're guessing? If you wish to, you can type it in the chat and I'll get to it. But I'm going to be sharing with you. And so I usually start off with the definitions, because what I want to make clear is, if we're going to have a conversation about mental illnesses, that's a different session. What I really always talk about is mental health education and promotion. And that's for us to recognize if we're mentally healthy, how are we going to work on getting there and staying there? And that's very different from having a mental illness. So the World Health Organization is our go-to in healthcare, and it tells us that mental health is a state of well-being in which you can realize your own abilities, you are coping with the normal stresses of life, you can work productively and fruitfully, and you are able to make a contribution to your community. For all the persons who have been following me on social media and you're joining me, later on I'll give you that information in the chat. You probably know by now this is the definition I typically use, because in addition to this here, WHO also says to be mentally healthy is more than the absence of a mental illness. So not having a mental illness does not automatically make you mentally healthy. And then the National Alliance on Mental Illness in the USA, this is the definition I'm sharing with you for mental illness, just so we're clear that they're different, but this is not what we're going to focus on today. So mental illnesses are a behavioral or psychological syndrome or pattern. It occurs in individuals, and while the similarities may include that it affects our thinking, feelings, or mood, it also affects our ability to relate to others and how we function in our daily lives. Mental illnesses are usually something that you need to see a mental health professional for, that you are given a particular diagnosis. We have several different kinds, and it requires following up with your treatment. So we're not talking about that today. We're going to be talking about what it means to be mentally healthy, and we're going to focus a little bit on our men today. So let me put some more statistics out here, because I asked you those questions for the introduction. And I would encourage you, make a note of what you want to ask or share. I will be calling upon you, and or just put them in the chat as we go along so that we can have a fantastic conversation. So there are 25% of our men globally who are living with a diagnosed mental illness. 75% of the suicides that are completed globally are from men. There are attempts of, I think, 3 to 1 for suicide for men to women. More men are dying from suicide, more women attempt, but men choose more lethal options. And so 75% of the suicide statistics we have are men who have died by suicide. You saw the statistics at the beginning. 84 men in their lives every week. We said 1 man every 72 seconds. 40% of our men will not talk to anybody at all if they're having any kind of mental health issue. And we have 75% of our men who are having symptoms of not being mentally healthy at any one point. Gentlemen, these are your statistics. If you're not in anywhere in any of these or you don't know, then that's great. But 1 in 5 of us in here, we are exposed to this. We know somebody. It may be a colleague, it may be a friend, it may be a family member that's not doing well mentally, and or they may have a mental illness. It's not something for us to take very lightly. Now, there is stigma associated with mental health. I usually say to persons, when you say mental, people don't hear the word health. So although I say mental health, what they really hear is mental. And when they hear mental, what comes to mind would be the questions I get are the people living on the road, those who eat out of the garbage, those who are not taking care of themselves, or they're talking to themselves. And I keep saying to them, sometimes even some of those people don't have a mental illness. Some of them may be homeless and struggling. But our society tells our men and gentlemen, let me dispel that first. Men do not, by nature of having more testosterone, automatically end up being able to solve every problem, and they are not automatically mentally healthy. I'm going to say that again. Testosterone does not mean that, gentlemen, you have the answer to everything. So our men don't talk about their mental health issues usually because although they are actually common and a lot of us are struggling, stressors in life will always be there. The stigma attached to it makes it difficult. So the gender roles we have say that men who express their emotions, particularly in a certain way, they are not real men. I was recently told that those who are admitted at Bellevue, those are not men, they are men. Yes? So when you need to be strong and you need to be able to fix everything and you need to be able to make sure you have all the answers, you suppress what you're going through so you can be that man. And that's a part of the challenge we have. The stigma that we have attached to this is not just one fold. So we have the social stigma because I thought I heard Dino saying it. Men need to be able to hold up their stress or you must man up. Or that you cry about or you for just tough it out. So social stigma tells us that because you're a man, you should be fine. You've got this. Then we have the self-stigma because society imposes this stigma on us and there are other types of stigma. We start to believe that. So gentlemen, you impose stigma on yourself because you're thinking if you cry, that means you're weak. If you express that you're struggling with a particular issue, that means you're weak. And so that self-stigma also prevents people from getting help. Professional stigma, unfortunately, exists as well because you would expect those of us in healthcare to know better. And not just healthcare. I've had gentlemen who are being physically abused by women in their relationships who will tell you they don't necessarily want to go to the police station to report it based on the response they get from the policemen. And I'm thinking to myself, men are abused. Why would this be something that's a challenge? So there is professional stigma. And then we have the cultural stigma because in Jamaica, we are a part of that cultural stigma. We also believe here from a societal point of view that men should have this figured out. And it's not necessarily true. So when you look at it, what are the things that can affect our mental health? Stress is a normal part of life. How we respond to this stress is the challenge. Do we do very good stress management? Are we using the right coping mechanisms? Are the questions we need to ask ourselves. So gentlemen, when you talk about it, do you have that kind of support? Are you able to actually say something? Do you process it all by yourself until you get to a point where you're not sure? And this is what it is. But these are some of the things that can come at you. So there's the time stress because the truth is, especially these days, we are all caught up in busy. And if we follow busy, we realize that we don't have enough time to get everything done. We're missing the deadlines, we're struggling, and we're wondering if we really will be able to get everything done. This is a huge challenge. The anticipatory stress. While we are here in the present, we are looking at what needs to be happening for the future. And sometimes while we are stressing about the future, we are missing what's happening right in front of us. But let's be realistic. They tell us that we should plan ahead. So you're making the future plan and you're a little bit stressed about it because from where you're sitting, it doesn't look like it may work out. Who doesn't want to be able to have that great job, to have the car you want, to have the money to be able to provide all you need to provide? Then we have the situational stress, and this is situations we have no control over. So it would be great if we could control all the varying factors around us and the different things, but it doesn't work that way either. And sometimes the stressors that we're having are the fact that we have no control over it and it's not going as we would like it to go. We cannot escape the encounter stress. It revolves around people, relationships. I'm pretty sure that Dino Crazy said, women are the reason why men are like this because if you tell them, they're going to tell you that you're weak and you have to hold up your stress and they're probably going to walk away and leave you. I don't think all women are like that. I'm pretty sure we are not. But I can see where we get that concept from. It comes from men as well. Gentlemen, it's about you this evening. Almost every female probably has at least one friend that they can talk to about all kinds of things who will not be judgmental or will always be there. Sometimes it's the very men that are supposed to be our brethren who we're trying to say something to are the ones who also tell us that we don't need to be responding like that and we are weak. And then we have occupational stress because it involves encounter with people as well. Depending on our work and our work environment, one of the shortfalls we have, particularly in Jamaica, is we don't have a lot of mentally healthy work environments. So some work environments, automatically job is stressful. And then the factors around us and the support we have within the system that we work in, it does not provide support for mental health. So one, It doesn't have any way that we provide opportunities to build mental health among us individually and as a group. Or two, even if somebody has a mental illness diagnosis, they wouldn't want to reveal it because you work in an environment where that's probably going to allow you to lose your job. They won't say that's it, but chances are you may lose your job if you divulge that information. So we have several things that can be stressors to us. And I always say to persons, stress, the stressors don't talk to each other. The stressors won't tell you, gentlemen, boy, you're having a little relationship stress right now and work now and go so good. So when those two communicate, they will say to the other stressor that's coming at you, no, man, just wait a little bit, make him sort out that. Stress doesn't work like that. So while it's coming at you, the challenge is how do you respond to it? What do you do to work on being mentally healthy to ensure that you are taking care of your mental health? And I always say to persons, I joke, but having worked at Bellevue Hospital for over 10 years, we always have more males than females admitted. And a part of what I try to do when I educate persons, have the information, know maybe what you could look at, where you could go to, because I don't want you to end up at Bellevue or Ward 21 or the 10th floor at Cornwall Regional, or finding yourself having attempted or you've left behind those because you've completed suicide when you worked it out for yourself or you didn't get any help or you're not consistently every day working on your mental health. So the risk factors I wanted to share today, it includes race because they do tell us that being of African descent exposes us, generally speaking. Poverty makes it harder for us. It includes the exposure to crime and violence. And once we are exposed to trauma, and then the gender role ties right into that. If I'm not able to provide, if I can't find a proper job, so it goes right into the absence of economic opportunities as well. If I'm exposed to a lot of crime and violence, if the only way I can figure out how to get some things done, we talk about education is the key, but how do I get to pay for my degree? What do I do about wanting to have my own company if I don't want to work for somebody? But even my address prevents me from getting financial help. And then we did talk about the fact that 75% of the suicides that are completed are male. So automatically the gender role is apart. And then this last bullet point, I usually say to many persons, again, having worked at Bellevue, one of the things I joke about and I say to people, do you know when we're looking at relationships for argument's sake, if we're looking at health, it's probably more realistic to know that we're going to ask somebody, do you have any diabetes in your family? Anybody has hypertension? We may even ask about heart problems. But how many people ask, is there any history of mental illness in your family? We don't usually ask that. And I will say from experience, a lot of the persons that I may have met who are struggling with a mental illness, it is on admission that many people sometimes find out that there was a family history. Nobody's telling you to walk away from somebody if there's any history, but it really is something we should consider in our conversations that we have. So the questions, gentlemen and ladies, to ask yourself, am I mentally healthy? Because I can respect and accept myself with my strengths and my weaknesses. We are not perfect. We all have strengths that we should keep and make better, and we all have weaknesses that we're always working on. Can we respect and accept others for who they are? We're all not the same. We're not a factory line. People are going to be different. We don't have to be best friends. Sometimes we don't even necessarily have to like each other, but can I respect and accept the fact that you are you? Can you cope with the daily challenges you have, and do you gain satisfaction in living? Are you getting up knowing that there may be challenges, but you're putting your best foot forward each day, trying to manage all your challenges? Or are you literally rolling yourself out of bed and you're going, but you don't want to go? And I usually say, am I mentally healthy because I'm flexible? We're always going to have challenges and we're always going to have issues coming at us. And gentlemen, you are going to have some just because you're a gentleman. Can you adjust and adapt to anything that's changing? Because flexibility is key to being mentally healthy. So we're going to ask yourself, how do I know if I'm not doing well mentally or not? Let's do I call this a quick and not exhaustible mental status assessment. So gentlemen, I'm going to share with you that these ones that you are seeing here that are highlighted in bold are usually the ones that our men will maybe expose more than the others. Doesn't mean they can't have the others as well. So when we find ourselves feeling sad or down persistently over at least a 2-week period, sometimes we can't explain what are we feeling sad about, what are we feeling down or depressed about, but we're having this feeling consistently, persistently for longer than 2 weeks. It's telling us that something is off. If we find ourselves having a reduction in our ability to focus and concentrate, if we find sometimes that our thinking feels jumbled or confused and we're not able to focus on the thing that we need to be paying attention to, even if we are usually multitaskers. Excessive fear and worries is one of the ones that our gentlemen have a lot and they don't share it, or they have extreme feelings of guilt because you're feeling guilty about what you can't do or what you should be doing. Feeling fearful that you may not be able to do it, or worried that despite your best efforts, it's not working out, and or that people are not seeing the efforts. Being mentally unhealthy also comes with having extreme mood changes. So people have fluctuations. In Jamaica, we say people moody, and that's not what I'm talking about. Having a fluctuation in feeling okay or feeling down or feeling like everything is going to be fine, and that fluctuation keeps happening consistently. Withdrawal from friends and activities. So again, I will say, women are more prone to say, let's have a girls' night out, day out, something, and hang out and do some things. Gentlemen usually have them brethren with them can hang out with and complete some activities. Play a ball game, play domino, things like that, and you find yourself not necessarily wanting to do any of those things because you're really just not doing great, but you can't talk about it, so you wish to not be social. The other one, gentlemen, that may be affecting you more when you're feeling mentally unhealthy is the inability to explain why you're having fatigue or significant tiredness. Just not physically feeling like that, your energy levels are low and you're having issues with sleep. So most people who are mentally unhealthy have a challenge with sleep, and some people will have somnolence. So they're sleeping too much, because if you're sleeping all the time, you can't think about the problem. But for most people, it's insomnia. Can't fall asleep, can't stay asleep, find yourself tossing and turning. Your brain is overactively working while you're lying there, and you're really just not doing well. So, of course, if you're not sleeping well, it may explain why you're feeling a little tired, but some people are having the fatigue and the low energy, even if they are sleeping. The inability to cope with the daily problems or the stressors. So usually you would be able to maybe work through these things, and you find yourself now being overwhelmed by some of these situations, and you're trying to think of plan A, B, and C, or what's an alternative, and it's not coming to you. Similarly, with that comes the issue of you're not really relating to and understanding people and situations, whereas you will be more tolerant, you're more able to listen, to understand. You're struggling with that because you are trying to work on your mental health and addressing the challenges that you're having. And a lot of our gentlemen turn to alcohol or substances, either start using it, or if they were using it occasionally or socially, they start to abuse it as a coping mechanism as opposed to being able to do something else about it. Some persons have major changes in eating habits, again, like sleep. Some people will lose their appetites and realize they're not really hungry and they're not eating. But for a lot of people, it's what we call stress eating. And every time I say it, I have no disagreements. When we stress eat, nobody wants to have whole grain rice and whole wheat bread and carrot sticks. Stress eating comes with KFC and Burger King and chocolate and ice cream and cheesecake, the things that bring us that kind of comfort. Again, gentlemen, this includes you. You notice it's in bold. The sex drive changes. For some people who are struggling, their sex drive can increase and they're actually participating in more risky sexual behavior. But for a lot of people, what happens is they've lost their sex drive and they're just not interested. I'm struggling, I'm trying to work out the problem. I can't see the answer and the solution. I'm not sleeping well, I'm feeling tired. So I've lost my interest. Excessive anger, hostility, or violence, because I'm not expressing what's really happening to me. Sometimes you find that the gentlemen are expressing themselves through anger. You can see tension basically rolling off of them. They're angry about every little thing, and they're really sometimes hostile or lashing out. And because we're men, we assume that physical violence is a thing, and some people get into physical challenges. Another set of symptoms we may have includes physical issues. So the backache, the headache, the stomach ache, any other kind of ache and pain. You didn't hit yourself anywhere, you never hurt anything, but you're having these pains you can't explain. Sometimes severe enough, you go to the doctor, they do all kind of tests, they give you medication, but it doesn't work because stress can manifest physically. And some persons get to suicidal thinking. If I can't see an answer, I can't see a solution. Is it better if I'm not here? I won't have the problem to deal with and I won't be a burden to anybody. And then the last bullet point I usually put here is that for a lot of people, when they try to put the stressors and the problems to the back burner, what can happen sometimes is your mind takes its own break from reality. So your mind say, well, I'm not managing you, not addressing this, and you have what we call a psychotic episode. So you take a break from reality. You can have delusions, you get very paranoid, you start to see or hear things that only you are seeing or hearing. And that's usually when you're going over into the mental illnesses, and these usually require hospitalization and or at least immediate mental health professional help. Suicidal thinking and or a plan is what we call a psychiatric emergency. If you have a psychotic break, or Jamaicans like to say nervous breakdown, you start to get paranoid or you abusing the substances or you're detaching from reality, these need mental health professional help immediately. So the questions to ask yourself, and I say that to say, no one of these makes you mentally unhealthy. But if you're experiencing 3 and 4, think about what's causing it. Where are you really? And how are we going to move forward? Because I always say to persons, this is not a sprint. So when you look at the family psychiatric history, you want to find out, and this is not regular family conversation that we usually have either. Is there anybody on any side of your family that anybody knows about that may have been displaying any kind of behavior that seemed to be mentally unhealthy? And we're not saying it must happen to you if it is there, but at least you're aware. There are many people who know, for instance, we had people on our family history who were behaving in strange ways. So, for instance, they opt to not smoke ganja because you don't know what can be a trigger for you. And for a lot of people, we have cannabis-induced psychosis. So they just say, let me not smoke that or be around it. Do you know anybody in your family who maybe has had to get professional help, get to counseling or so on? Because there's nothing wrong with that, but it tells you at least they recognize they weren't doing okay and they had to get help. Anybody who has had any symptoms of mental illness, anybody who may have had an actual diagnosis or they are living with it, ladies and gentlemen, we have many persons who are living with a mental illness diagnosis, just like diabetes or hypertension. If you don't know, you don't know. If they don't tell you, you don't know. So having a diagnosis is not the end of the world. Anybody taking any kind of psychiatric medications or any history of admissions, it just helps you to know to try and better prepare yourself. So this is the phrase that gets used a lot. If a man up. Man up equals to me what society has created for our gentlemen. Tough it out. For that you really cry for. Man up and deal with the thing. You for all up your stress. We don't subscribe to any of those in mental health. And I always say we are perpetuating that starting from babies. So let me throw it out to you and you tell me what's your answer. 2 babies or 2 small children are playing. They are running around. Both of them fall. They've scraped their knees. What is the usual response we have to the girl? And what's the response we have to the little boy? Let me hear what you have to say.
For the little girl, always, well, with the Jamaican culture, it's always more caring and, nurturing type of vibe. While for a boy, you have to tough it out. It's a boy, boys will be boys. You need to know what pain feel like. You leave the boy, make him cry. You got to go trouble him and make him cry because I have to understand that because it's almost like it's set out as a man or once the doctor say you're a boy, there's certain toughness where you have to go through. If you don't go through that, you're not a man. That is the Jamaican way.
Correct. And it's not just Jamaica and Stephen, it's global. So we start this from there small. So I always say to persons, are we trying to say that when they both fall and hurt themselves, just because the little boy has more testosterone, that's what makes him male, automatically it hurts less? It does not. If he cries, does that make him less of a male child? And where is it scientifically, physiologically shown that if men cry, that makes them less of a man? We have no answers for those, but we perpetuate those. So I saw a cartoon depiction of a mom who was doing this very same thing with her son, and she was berating him and she was telling him to be a man about certain things. And you could see that as he progressed from younger to teenage. And then the picture right below that was showing this very mom talking to her adult son. And she was upset with him because she was saying, "You're not expressing yourself and you're not talking." And I'm saying to us, and I'm asking us to be very honest with ourselves, can we see that we are perpetuating the notion of man up from our children are small? And once we've laid that foundation in them, when they get to adulthood, how are we dealing with it when we are saying, but we shouldn't have so many men dying from suicide. It shouldn't be this hard to communicate in a relationship. Men should know that we see them and hear them. Where have we fostered that in their growing up? Is everybody with me?
Yes, we are.
So the concept of man up is not a good one. It's not a phrase I use, and that's why I said what I want to talk about today is telling us how to mentally man up. We have to change that. So how do we know if we are, how are we going to work on getting our mental health, how are we going to maintain it? So the first thing is that we need to know, are we mentally healthy? And we've covered that just now. Do we know what are the signs and the symptoms of being mentally unhealthy? We don't know what it is about the mental illnesses. And the truth is, I said we could have a different conversation about that. But we're aware that it has to do with people who are struggling and they are doing differently. Go ahead, Lillian.
All right, so my teenage daughter is with me and she has a lot of questions.
All right.
So, Kayla, go ahead with your question.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
This is an interesting discussion, and I don't disagree. It's just to be honest, it does go back to society. We are taught that males are supposed to behave a particular way, and I do get the point with the whole, we grow them to be like this, and then at the end of the day, we'll have communication issues and all the works. However, if it is that we grow the son to express himself as much as a female is expected to, where do we see the difference between how a male behaves from how a female behaves? That's just it for me, because I don't know, I guess society has taught me that the difference between male and female is not just clothes and etc., but it's also how they behave. So yeah, that's my question.
All right. Thank you, Kayla. So we're going to know what are the signs and symptoms of being mentally unhealthy. But Kayla, when you say, how do we know the difference if our males behave like our females? Who taught us about how females should behave and how males should behave so that we should be making a difference when it comes to mental health? That's the question I'm throwing back to you. Agreed. And that's us. And I'm now saying we need to change that conversation. I am not saying that men cry for everything. In fact, there are some women who don't cry for anything. And that's a different conversation because people assume if you're not, according to society, emotional, you're not girly enough. And I'm saying to us, why are we perpetuating this kind of labeling? If there's a relationship, for argument's sake, and I say to my students all the time, remember when you were in high school, because I'm teaching university students, and you had this girlfriend or this boyfriend, and it never worked out, and the way you're stressed out about it, and you're crying, you think you're going to die, and we have this one song, and you play it on repeat, and the way you feel about it, and the girl may be the one who behaves more like that, but the young man may be feeling the same, but he's probably going to hide, or it may be less for him. But the manner in which it hurt you is no less because you're a male or a female. And then we're able to move forward. So you know in university, you probably find out a boyfriend or a girlfriend, or years later when you meet up back on this person and you're saying to yourself, then this was the person I was behaving like this about, because you can't even see what it was then, now that you're here. And I ask people all the time, if it hurts a young man and he sheds a tear and he says he can't understand what happened and he made his best effort, who says he's less male? If the female doesn't cry as much and she's processing it in her own way, who says she's less female? Sometimes it's a matter of how we are socialized. How many of our young men know that it's okay if your dads hug you and say, I love you? Let's start with that. How many of them don't get ridiculed if something hurts them and they maybe really just shed a tear or not, because it's okay to express what they're feeling and that's what you feel. Tears are a language by itself. And sometimes I keep saying to people, when you are not doing well and you keep it inside, it's like a bubbling volcano and it's going to come out. Many of our men are attempting or completing suicide or in prison because they don't know to express themselves well emotionally, and we are the ones who are perpetuating that. So we have to change the narrative, Kayla. It doesn't get changed overnight. Just by sharing this evening or having a drum, it doesn't change. But I'm hoping as we move forward, we will help our men to recognize you don't have to be like us, for instance, based on what society says, but you should be able to express that you're struggling, you're not doing okay, and you're working on it, and get help if you need it. And that each of us will be sharing it with somebody else so that we can work on all of us, making an effort to work on our mental health every day. So I hope that helps you a little bit, Kayla, and the rest of what I have to say.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
All right. So we have to practice mental health strategies. Be deliberate about our health overall, but include our mental health. When we talk about being healthy, you know what we talk about? What we eat. We talk about what is it that we are going to do in terms of the gym or physical activity. For some people, it includes your spiritual health and making sure you include God. And for some people, it's also about financial, because the challenge you have is if you don't have money, you struggle. But where in there do we do deliberate things for our mental health? So we need some things to foster our mental health, and it needs to be all the time. Just like when you plan to go to the gym or you plan what you're going to eat, it doesn't always work, but you have to try. Know when to get professional help. And as a society, we struggle with that. Nobody wants to say, I need some help. But knowing when to get the help is important. So you're going to try all the things. You're going to be working on it. But sometimes it just does not work. So you have to know when to get that help, because let's be honest, if you're having a headache and you've had it for like 2 weeks and you're taking all the Panadol or the Aleve or the Brufen, you say, no, I'm going maybe go to the doctor to figure out why my head hurting. We use our minds to solve our issues and to help us to cope. If you're trying all the things and it's not working, that should really tell you maybe I need to talk to somebody who that's their training. And the last part is be a part of the conversation. What I do is mental health education and promotion. People always ask me, I say, I don't do counseling. But if I'm able to share the knowledge with you, if I'm able to point you in a direction, if I'm able to have these conversations openly, then it helps. Share with each other what we know, and any kind of misinformation that's out there, we need to change that. And sometimes it helps to hear from others. Buju Banton says, who said that big man don't cry? And sometimes we need other people who are like us to say the things so that we can realize, because who says that they don't cry? So attaining and maintaining mental health is a part of our life's journey. It's not a one-off thing. It's not a 100-meter sprint. You don't cross the line and you say, yes, I reach and I'm mentally healthy. It doesn't work like that. It's not about the destination. It's about the journey. And it's something we're going to have to make an effort to do every single day. So gentlemen, ladies, don't wait for everything to be perfect. We have one single life. And if you joined me at the beginning while we were waiting, I was playing Time by Kez Namdi. And it's a fantastic song that's reminding us that time is short. We don't know much we have. Don't waste it. You only have one you. So the effort to take care of yourself must be important. It's great if you have support and others are a part of that. But you are responsible for yourself. So I only have a few things I want to share with you. Again, like the assessment, it's not exhaustive, but it's an important conversation for us to have. So we have to connect with others. No man is an island. We need strong, healthy relationships around us that support us, that motivate us, that enrich us. If the people we have around us are draining us, are making us more stressed, are making us feel more down, then the honest truth is we have to start thinking about, like when you have a plant and the leaves are dying and you start pruning it so that it can have life, we're going to have to start changing our circle we have around us. The quality of the relationships we have has a great impact on our well-being, and so we have to put time and effort into it. They pour into us, we pour into them. We know when to say no, we know when to put those boundaries up, and we know to take care of ourselves while we support somebody and while they support us. So the connection is very important. We have to take the time to enjoy. We find ourselves busy. We're going. You wake up, you start your day, you do all of these things, you go to bed, tomorrow you start over. Set aside some time. Sometimes you can be spontaneous, sometimes you have to plan. When was the last time you did something for enjoyment? Any kind of activity, hobby, or project that you like? Gentlemen, how about that domino? How about the football? How about going to church? How about men's fellowship? How about going to this particular club or whatever it is that you do that's healthy and wholesome, but it gives you that time to enjoy and relax? And I put very simple ones here. Sometimes people like to read, they like to do crosswords. Sometimes it's a matter of just being physically active. If you have children, gentlemen, when last you play a game or even color some pictures, it is so relaxing. Watch one show together, have a great conversation, play some board games. I already said to you, there's only one you. So while you're being active physically, while you're trying to eat well, your physical and your mental health are very closely linked. So we have to take our physical selves, but we can't leave out the mental self. So when you feel good about your life, when you're working on your stressors, when you're managing them well, when you're making the effort to do so, you automatically feel better. When you do the physical activity, physiologically, it releases what we call endorphins. Sometimes we get serotonins, we get the oxytocins. Those are feel-good hormones. When you combine that with what you eat and your body is healthy, automatically your mind also feel better and you feel good inside and you feel good outside. We have to take the time to manage our stress. So rest is important, sleep is important, but we need to refresh and renew. And this is where I usually say to us, if anybody is willing to open your mic and answer, let me hear. Do you go to bed at night without putting your cell phone to charge because you will need it for tomorrow? Anybody?
Occasionally.
Is it occasionally? Is it generally a practice we may have? Let's charge your phone overnight so tomorrow we have it for full use. Isn't that so?
Yes, that's so.
Correct. So if we are that careful about our phones, if we are careful to make sure we have our cars serviced and we fill up the gas tank when it needs filling up, why do we not treat ourselves with the same importance? What are the things that we do to plug ourselves in and to ensure that we are fully charged? So the next strategy is to challenge yourself. Sometimes it takes learning something new or taking on a particular challenge if you're at a space to manage that, to feel better about yourself mentally. When you learn something new, when you commit yourself to getting to a goal, and once you've gotten that done and you've mastered it, what you find is that the challenge of doing it and getting it done automatically improves your mental fitness. It builds your confidence, gives you a new skill, and you automatically feel better about yourself mentally. We have to manage our stress. I already told you your stress don't talk to each other. They don't say, since we have two things going on, wait a little. Or let's give you a small stress if you have two big stresses going on. That's not how it works. So we're going to have the stressors. How do you react? Can I remove myself from the stressor? Can I remove the stressor from me? If I can't do any of those, can I change the way I respond to the stressor in the moment? If things are triggers to me. So for instance, you're saying to yourself, I want to do this particular thing, but I find that, let's say it's something like business and you're trying to interact with this particular company to get some help for your company. The customer service is poor. Do you keep trying with them or you just simply choose to go and deal with another company because you're taking away that trigger from you? So stress is going to be a regular part of our lives and we have to figure out, how do I deal with it? Gentlemen, hiding, not talking, Drinking, smoking, or any of those things is not the way to deal with our stress. We have to decide, can we manage it? Can we minimize our response to it? Can we move it? Can we move ourselves? And in the interim, then, what can we do? Do I work out a plan A, B, and C? Do I make a backup D, E, F? Do I get somebody to help me? Do I approach it in small increments instead of trying to approach all of it at one time? And do I figure out how to best manage it? We need to sleep, but we also need to rest. So we should try to have a good sleep hygiene. A particular time we go to bed, try to have habits that help us to fall asleep and stay asleep, because sleep is restorative to our minds and our bodies. When you don't sleep, you can't think straight, you can't concentrate, you can't focus, you're automatically fatigued and you get very miserable and very, for want of a better phrase, aggressive and hostile. But during the day, can we also figure out where do we get our rest time? How many of us pause throughout the day to do nothing? To maybe listen to a little music, to just go sit in your car and cool out for a second, to just maybe have that one beer, to have a one check-in, to just do something that gives you the opportunity to rest. There's nothing wrong with pausing for a break. And I emphasize this, gentlemen, because particularly we believe that men must always be busy and doing to produce and to give and to provide. There's nothing wrong with taking a pause. Learn to say no. I don't tell anybody to be selfish. The more you say yes is the less you know how to take care of yourself and the things you have to take care of. So learn when you can manage, and if you can't manage, nothing wrong with saying no. Let's practice relaxation. Relaxation. When do you take 5 minutes to just say, and take a deep breath? When do we fit that in? Conflict resolution skills. We are always not going to agree. And for some reason, we seem to think agreeing to disagree is not as great. We can agree to disagree. We can listen to each other. We can talk it out. And gentlemen, sometimes when we not agree the way, we have to shout and quarrel until sometimes it wasn't even that serious and it becomes an argument. Conflict resolution skills are important so we know to fix things. I'm going to be honest and say, gentlemen, just like I said, we have more men in Bellevue than women. We have more men in prison than women. And sometimes it's a simple conflict resolution skill. How many brothers or siblings or family members or friends have hurt each other or killed each other over agreement, over some money or some clothes, or to go down the road or come up the road? If we are vacationing regularly is an important factor. We are employed, whether self or not. And sometimes we think if we go on vacation, the business or the workplace is going to shut down. Nothing don't go so. Plan that time when you stop and take a break. If you should drop down and dead, God forbid, they're going to say, boy, him was a hard worker, I know ever a smile coming near him, dress up. And when him cut all him hair and him sharp, and I love the cologne him used to wear and so on, and them cry like eye water. By the funeral time, you're being replaced, you know. Vacation time is a part of that. Plug in yourself and recharge time. Take some time off. And gentlemen, just like I tell the ladies, if you have children or you have parents or grandparents you have to care for, any kind of caregiving responsibility, when you take your vacation time, squeeze in a little you time where you just get 5 minutes to just take your breath down and you don't need to be worried about caring for anybody and you can literally just relax. The last one is usually called the stop technique. And this is one I say, any moment at all you're overwhelmed, you're angry, you're vexed, you know, feel for talk, you can't express what you feel, you want to show something, you want to cuss whole heap and you want to behave in such a way because you're not managing, is a moment for the stop. Literally, stop what you're doing in the middle of it. Take those deep breaths. Figure out what's happening to you at all. What is it really that's happening to me right here? So, and then when you get to P, proceed with something that will support you in the moment. So you're going to stop. You're going to take the deep breaths. And I'm going to show you the breaths because it's important that you take the breaths. When you inhale everything that's happening to you, which helps you to observe. And when you exhale, it helps you to blow that out and give your brain that minute to calm down and to think about the what next. So when you take those deep breaths, I call this the 3-3-5 for relaxation. You inhale through your nose and you count 1, 2, 3. You hold that breath and you count 1, 2, 3. You exhale through your mouth, and because you're getting rid of all the stress and anxiety, the exhale is longer than the inhale, and you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Usually you do it in sets of 3s, and I'm just saying to all of us, this is FREEE, the stop and the deep breathing. And once you've done that enough, your brain becomes calmer, your mind becomes calmer, your heart rate becomes calmer, your breathing slows down, and you're able to just process your what next. For a lot of us, if we're able to process what next rationally, then we are better off. Because the truth is, when you're angry, you're overwhelmed, or you're hungry, or you're sad, or you're feeling anything that's overwhelming, you're not able to think clearly. And so I just want to encourage us, please. Use the stop, take the deep breaths at any point you need it, and let's figure out how you go next. I talked about the professional help earlier, and I equate this with getting your car sorted out by the mechanic. Gentlemen, we have another social stigma. Because you're a man, you should know to fix everything. Not every man knows how to fix everything. Not every man knows more about fixing things than a female does, but it's an assumption. So let's say your car making a sound and you know about car. Nothing wrong if you're going to listen, turn on, turn off, check in here, so check there, so. But really and truly, if it's beyond your scope, you call a professional. It's similar to if you're light gone and you pay a light bill, you call the electrician. If your pipe bursts, you call the plumber. If you are going to be practicing all the things that can help you to be mentally healthy, if you are recognizing that struggling and knowing your struggle and trying to fix it doesn't make you any less manly, but you feel like you still not manage, get professional help. People who counsel do not give you the answer. They help you to figure out the best answer that works for you. It doesn't make you less of a man to say, I'm angry all the time, for instance. And when I look back at that, it came from, let's say, the space I grew up in or the community. Everybody shout, everybody express themselves in anger, everybody quarrel over everything. And I'm finding myself doing that, and I want to stop. I've tried a couple of things, it don't work, so let me go talk to somebody. There's nothing unmanly about that. There's nothing weak about it. If we tell ourselves, I'm trying and it's not working. So we need to look at professional help if we need it. These are the persons with the training, just like the mechanic, the electrician, and the plumber, who will know how to help us where our mental health is concerned. This one, I thought I would just squeeze in here. It doesn't have to get the whole. Move it.
Some days
Gentlemen.
But bad days when nothing at all now go my way. You know me feel like give up. I miss a throw in the towel and give up. When work I stress me, yeah. I'm a girl now caressing me. You know me have a few spots so when me rally back, and all of my problem them left me. And so I'm big up the corner shop, big up my lane, big up my block, and then my big up anywhere I can chill while I vibe and build. Release the stress and relax, yeah. I miss a big up the barber shop, big up the ball field where the ball is at. Till Lord, just before me go home, I have some stop, release my mind and relax. I'm a chill spot.
So, gentlemen, my additional strategy is, where is your chill spot? Where is it that helps you to release all your stress, relax, and chill out? For some people, it's out on the road. For some people, it's actually at home. So we talk about, I think he said the ball field, the barber shop. He's talking about those kind of places that help you to relax. Some men in their homes, they have a little space. Where is your space? That space helps you to relax. So you have to figure out where that is. I'm going to put these 2 links in the chat. Let us speak up and speak out. Dr. Michael Abrams talks about mental health all the time, and he's a man who is living with a mental diagnosis of clinical depression. So he says, despite his demeanor and his comedic nature, he's living with depression and working through it every single day. And so this was a fantastic article he wrote in 2023 about men and mental health challenges. And I thought I would share these so you can find them and have a look, because it sounds good for me to tell you, and I'm not saying you're not hearing me and or you're not ready to give me these questions and comments. But sometimes it helps to hear from somebody else. And this article I shared last week It's from Kevin Gilbert, and he works at the National Drug Abuse as I think an education resource person. And he talks about finding strength through his mental health journey, looking at the way he was brought up and the mental health issues he realized he had, that he was mentally unhealthy, and the journey he's going through to fix that. Because he's talking about moving forward. You don't want to carry baggage into your life. You don't want to not deal with your issues properly. You don't want to take it into your relationship and have it fail, and then that adds to your stress. But sometimes, gentlemen, you don't even realize you're carrying the baggage or the stress. And so I thought I'd just put these two gentlemen here from a local perspective and put the links in the chat when we get to the Q&A section so that you're able to recognize that it is there is help, it's not the end of the world. And what it means is I'm asking you to mentally man up. I'm asking us to equate mentally manning up to the fact that it needs to be okay for our gentlemen to struggle, to be honest that they are struggling so they can get the help that they need. We're asking our men to mentally man up because we need them to be around. We need the statistics for suicide to go down. We need to have less men with mental health struggles. And I'm asking our women to step up so that we can start with our youngest children without socializing them to think it's okay to keep everything in and to not share, so that when we have them as our sons, as our friends, as our partners, to let them know we see them, we hear them, we understand they are struggling, and we are here to support them in whichever way they need it. So they shouldn't think it's a secret to hold up them stress because we're going to walk away. So I'm encouraging us, instead of using man up as a negative phrase, can we please mentally man up? Caring for our mind is as important and crucial as caring for our body. So gentlemen, if we take care of our physical self, we go to the gym, we eat right, we look good, but we're not taking care of our minds, we're still going to have a challenge because our minds and our bodies are not exclusive. One cannot be healthy without the other. And I'm reminding us, we're not manning up, we're mentally manning up. Opening up about our struggles or how we feel isn't something that makes us weak, that you are not a burden. It is okay to cry and feel sad if that's what's happening to you in the moment. It's okay to ask for help. And even when we put on a facade that we are doing all right, the last thing I wanted to share with you, I hope it will play before we go off, is something I found, and I'm saying to us, do not wait until you get here. Let me see if I can find it for you. Are you seeing my screen?
Yes, I am.
Yes.
All right. Let me see if you can. This video, they say, has been watched over 50 million times in 6 days. And I wanted to close with this one because I want to say to our gentlemen and to our women, pay attention and don't wait until you get here.
Oh, wow. How you doing? You good? Oh, sorry. Thank you. How you doing? God, it's exciting, isn't it, Hank? So, how's your week going? Yeah, okay. Yes. Oh, everything's a bit outside. I've got warm. No, you can do it. Oh, oh, it's work. Wow.
The volume is very, very low. Can it be turned up? Not hearing clearly.
I don't think it can be any higher. I'm just going with the captions at this moment. So what's really happening here is that they are saying sometimes you can clearly see when somebody is struggling. Of the two gentlemen there, it was obvious that the gentleman on the left was struggling. And sometimes it's not as obvious because at the end of the video, it was a gentleman who was on the left of my screen, perhaps to your right, who was placing the, oh Lord, the name just went right out of my head. He was placing the thing on the seat beside him. His friend, who was always the one checking in on him and comforting him, was the one who had taken his life by suicide. So the assumption is that it's obvious sometimes when we're not doing okay. The assumption is we may not always see it because some people do a fantastic job of hiding what they are feeling. All right, you want me to put the link for the video as well. But sometimes the real challenge is that the ones who are doing the best job at hiding are the ones who are struggling the most. And so as we close, I'm asking us to remember that it's important to recognize that testosterone does not mean our men have the answers to every and anything. It's important for us to recognize that while our physical health is great, our mental health needs to also be a priority. And particularly today, the narrative in our society is for us to man up, to hold up your stress, to tough it out. I'm asking you to mentally man up and to recognize you don't have all the answers. You are going to struggle. Being a man doesn't make you hurt less, feel less anxious, feel less worried about things that are not going great or your future. And I want you to recognize that it's fine to work on your mental health every single day. It's a must. But if it's not going okay, then nothing prevents you from getting some help, because we do want our men to be here and we want you to be mentally healthy. And for my ladies, I'm asking you to help us to minimize the perpetuating of the fact that men should be men and should man up, but they should mentally man up. And if we have mentally healthy children, it makes them at an increased possibility of being mentally healthy adults, and they take themselves to a place. So I thank you for joining me and listening. This is how you can find me if you don't have me yet. The newsletter on Mondays, it's called Mental Health Mondays, and it's on LinkedIn. So you can subscribe to the newsletter. I don't think you have to be on LinkedIn. And then when I put them out on the first Monday, it will automatically notify you. So the next one comes out on July 7. If you're not on my social media pages, I do 1 week of posts every single month about mental health and a particular topic. And so that one will be again, usually the second week of every month. And I'm on Facebook or Instagram, and both pages are A Mentally Healthy You. My email address and my phone number are there if you want to find me. And then Mental Health Mondays is 2 parts. So today was Mental Health Mondays, the live session for June. And I hope to see you again on the 28th of July, I believe, for Mental Health Mondays. And I promise, gentlemen, I'm asking you to come back, and my ladies, because we started off in March talking about being mentally healthy in menopause and perimenopause, and they were asking for a part 2. I am going back to that in July, but in July, we're going to talk about being mentally healthy in menopause, what men need to know, and the impact on relationships. So I'm hoping you're going to come back when we'll have some other people to talk about that in July. And I will take your questions, your queries, and or your comments. Charmaine, I saw your hand first. Go right ahead.
I just want to know how the men feel about all that you have to say today.
Okay, well, I'm hoping some of them will be brave enough to speak. Gentlemen, Charmaine is throwing that out, and I will stop my sharing so I can get the links for you to put in the chat. How are you feeling? And I thank you for joining. Let me just pause to say, particularly thank you, Mommy. I thought I saw Dr. Ramsey. Thank you, Lillian, who's always here. Charmaine, My nephews are out here in their numbers, and my oldest son. I thank you so much, because while we may talk to the choir sometimes, we do have the people who hear and move forward. And I'm hoping they are sharing. And everybody who is here, thank you, thank you, thank you so very much. So I think Dr. Ramsey wants to say something, and then Nicolette, I saw your hand. So Dr. Ramsey, go right ahead, and then Nicolette.
Thanks, Cheryl. I thought this was an excellent workshop and seminar, because what you're doing is that you're raising an issue that we don't often raise. And what you're saying about allowing men to release their feelings and to release them in a healthy way, I think that is magnificent. I think that is a message that needs to be carried around the society today. How do you release your feelings that they're toxic? How do you release your feelings that they're healthy? And you did a great job on that subject today. And that men do not need to be stoic all the time, that they indeed have feelings. And in fact, one of the reasons for the state of violence in Jamaica is the fact or the indication that men are not allowed to release their feelings in healthy ways. So this has very wide implications for the society. So thank you very much, Cheryl, again. Excellent.
Thank you, Dr. Ramsey. Go right ahead, Nicolette.
Thank you, Auntie Cheryl. Good evening. I hope that everyone is hearing me clearly.
We're hearing you.
Okay, awesome. Firstly, I wanted to say that this was an excellent presentation. It was very insightful, and it was because of that reason. I know this is a men's mental health presentation, but I wanted to tune in as a woman just to understand certain things from their perspective and how they may be feeling. Because I know for us, at least for me, I'm always an advocate for, being vulnerable and talking about things and how you're feeling, because I think it does help you to release and can make you feel better. But I really wanted to tune in to hear what you had to say and just understand that being emotional and vulnerable is a bit harder for men because of how society is and how they have been socialized. But I think one of the things that men, they kind of have to understand or do is, take into consideration that in order to tackle the issues that you are experiencing, you have to be open-minded and you have to be able to admit that there is a problem or you're experiencing these type of issues. Like, yes, it's one thing to acknowledge that society has contributed to this particular issue that we're having, but you have to take that next step and seek the help that you need, whether it is finding the outlets that you mentioned in your presentation to help with the stress, or just finding somebody to talk to, whether it is a friend, it could be a therapist, so you may have to seek professional help. Or sometimes it's even a stranger. It could be somebody that you just bounce up in and you feel like your money can confide in this person because maybe you don't want to talk to somebody that you know, right? It is a process, and sometimes you're going to take backward steps, but you have to be open and take the time out to admit that, yes, I am going through it, and try to move away from this quote unquote, I'm a man, so I have to do what I have to do mentality. The same people that are telling you to hold up your stress, they're not the ones feeling what you're feeling. They're not the one experiencing what you are experiencing. So don't allow them to dictate or write your story. Just do whatever you need to do to make yourself a better version of you and just overall holistically be a better person. So it was a very insightful presentation, and I did learn a lot today.
Thank you, Madam Nicolette. Gentlemen, let me hear what you have to say. If there's anybody brave enough to share, because this is what we're talking about. You don't have to say a whole lot, but it was your session.
All right, Auntie. First, let me say this was a wonderful session. Happy I logged on for this today. I think that everyone on this call, both male and female, probably saw one of those indicators that you can say, oh, I've experienced this, or yeah, you can definitely relate to it. And it's important. I always say it across all walks of life, this is something that we need to pay more attention to. I've seen where I've gone to high school with multiple individuals who have had serious episodes. One of those persons is no longer here. One of them is incarcerated. So, and these are people who, seeing them, you would have never known that, or they would have that in them to do what they did for them to end up how they are now. So it's really important. Hopefully, for the next session, I'll see more of my friends on this, because this is a really, really important topic.
Thank you very much, Stephen. And this is what I'm saying. It will generate the conversation. And I'm saying, in my mind's eye, I remember there was a time when I thought, if I'm the only one talking about this, it may not make a difference. I've moved on beyond that. And it's fantastic. If I have 2 people in here, if it's only one person, if it's 40 or 50 of you, it's great if you have a lot. But the point is that we need to be able to share the information, to put it out there, to be aware for ourselves, to make an effort when we move forward, and to be a part of helping to change the narrative. So I really thank all of you for being on. I encourage you, if you're out there somewhere, follow one of my pages, go out there, put some feedback on any of the sessions you've come to when I put them out, because it doesn't only help the visibility. It may help more people to come along, but it's important for the message to get sent out. And I will not stop, but it's really great that we're all going to be a part of the conversation moving forward. And I saw the comments in the chat, and I thank the gentlemen who are commenting. I got Kemar saying it was a godsend message. So Kemar, thank you for joining, because it's important. Hello, Madam Antoinette. She's saying it was a very good session for both men and women alike. And I am agreeing, because we're not doing this in silos. We want our men to be better and to be mentally healthy, but we have to help, and we have to focus on our own mental health. The only way to give the best of yourself is to work on being your best self. And every single one of us, the first strategy I shared was connect with others. We all need somebody to help us along with that. So I'm very happy that you are here this afternoon. Is there anything else before we go that anybody wants to say or ask? Because you don't have to ask me here. You can find me. If you want me to put my number in the chat, just in case you don't have it, I can do that so that we can have this conversation. If you need me to do a presentation or a workshop or a seminar at your business place, I thank my nephews who are here from Kensington. I believe my very first paid presentation was at Kensington Cricket Club, to have this conversation about how do we move forward being mentally healthy, especially as our men, in our homes, by ourselves, in our workplaces, in our schools. I'm always available, barring my schedule. The recording, I should be sharing it afterwards. So I'll be honest and tell all of you join me that I'm working on the YouTube channel. I did put it out there. There's just not anything necessarily. I'm going back to the recording for last month, where we looked at the difference, I think, between mental health and mental illnesses. And this one, so that I will be able to actually now fully utilize the mental health channel on YouTube. And so you could find the recording there. So I look forward to seeing all of you on my social media pages. So the followers go up, for the newsletter to subscribe on LinkedIn, to look out for the information for the Mental Health Mondays on the 4th Monday, to put a review and to say this was great so more people will join, and more than anything else, to apply to your lives and to share the information. Madam Antoinette, go right ahead.
Thank you so much, Cheryl, for a very inspiring session this afternoon. I truly learned a lot, recognizing that it was geared towards empowering the male. However, there were little nuggets there that spoke also to the female. And so the ability to tie both concepts together was very good and informative. I'm looking forward to the continuing attendance to your sessions.
Thank you, my darling, and thank you for being here. You're very welcome, Lance. I lead mental health for every and anybody. When I say to persons, the difference between mental health and mental illnesses is very real, and we all have to make an effort to be mentally healthy. And mental health is in every single aspect of our lives, and that's why my conversations change all the time. So look out for what I post during the second week of the month on social media. Look out for the newsletter. Look out for what I share here. depending on what you ask me to come and present, it is in every aspect of our lives, in our daily lives, in our church lives, in our social lives, in how we play sports, in how we relate to each other, in going to school, in every single area. It is applicable. And I have 3 sons. I have 3 brothers. I have 9 uncles. There's no way, having worked at Bellevue and having fantastic friends and colleagues and persons around me who are male, that I can't champion mental health for every area. And so I just thank you so much once again. Have a fantastic rest of your evening. I promise I will put out a notification once the recording is up on the YouTube channel. And I look forward to seeing all of you in person or on social media. Thank you.
You're welcome, Cheryl. It was good joining.
Thank you, Charmaine.